Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today's morning Srimad Bhagavatam class as part of our Bhagavat Live program. We are reading from, or we are studying from second Canto, chapter number 9. If I am correct, we are supposed to resume our discussion from verse number 31. Or else anyone else can clear that from which verse we are starting. We'll offer prayers together and we'll begin our discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakta Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gotase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Go Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today's morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, second canto, 9th chapter. We are going to read now what did Lord Shri Vishnu responded to the prayers, or not responded to the prayers, but in other words, being pleased by the penance of Brahmaji, and also Brahmaji have asked for certain benedictions. So what had happened in the chapter so far? Here Brahmaji has performed penance after hearing Vishnu's instruction to him as tapa, which he did for 1,000 celestial years, being pleased by his austerities, not only austerities, but more largely his obedience to the Vishnu's instruction. Lord Vishnu is pleased, and Lord Vishnu have given darshan of the whole spiritual world to Brahmaji along with his darshan, which is in itself, as Vishnu says, is the rare of the rare blessing. Yet when Lord Vishnu appeared to Brahmaji, he asked that, Brahma, I am pleased with your penance and your obedience to me. Ask for a benediction. And then Brahmaji expresses gratitude to the Lord, and then he asked 4 questions. and whose answers are actually called as Catuh-sloki Bhagavatam. So I would request all of you to pay attention. It is a very important subject matter. What are those 4 questions? I'll just quickly recap when we start with the 31st verse. If in case you want to have some grasp on it, I would say write down the questions. Hare Krishna. So the moment when I tell you the 4 questions, if possible, write it down so that you see what Lord is responding to it. This is the foundation of this whole Bhagavad philosophy. All right, text number 31. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Jnanam Paramaguhyam Me Yat Vijnana Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha Grahana Gatitam Maya. We are on the text number 31. Anyone would like to share Vedabase if they have Vedabase online? So if they wish, they can share that, and I'll allow the sharing. Or in case if you all have Bhagavatam, fantastic. Can we pause it? So Jnanam Paramaguhyam Me. Lord says, now Brahma, I'm going to give you the most confidential knowledge. Paramaguhyam Me. Yad Vigyan Samanvitam. So what is a Paramaguhyam Gyan which Lord Vishnu has already given to Brahmaji? That is his personal darshan. Lord Shri Krishna speaks the same thing in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also. Paramaguhyam is to get darshan of the Lord's personal form. Then Saharahasyam Tad Angam Cha. Tad Angam is paraphernalia, you can call it. Saharahasyam. I'm also going to give you the Saharahasyam. And that Saharahasyam is Lord Shri Krishna is going, Lord Vishnu is going to teach him about Prema Bhakti, the secret of Prema Bhakti. Tadangam Cha, along with this paraphernalia. Grahana Gaditam Maya. Grahana means accept. Grahan karna, accept. Gaditam Maya. Gaditam ka matlab hota hai explain karna. Maya means by me. So just try to take it up. Just try to understand it as being explained to me, to you by me. Translation: the personality of God had said, knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. So yad vijnana samanvitam, in conjunction with devotional service. That's the meaning of the second line. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it out carefully. So I believe last time or prior to that, I had given an introduction to this Catuh-sloki Bhagavatam to all of you from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually explained these 4 verses, the upcoming 4 verses to Sanatana Goswami, and he established a tattva called as Sambandha Gyan, Abhidhe and Prayojana. So these are the upcoming verses. So here in this verse also, Sambandh, Abhidheya, and Prayojana is discussed. Sambandh is Param Guhyam. Vijnana Samanvitam is devotional service, that is Abhidheya. And Saharasyam, which is Prema Bhakti, that is Prayojana. And now Lord Vishnu will explain that Sambandh, Abhidheya, Prayojana ahead. So in the purport, all right. So in the purport, a few things Prabhupada mentions. First thing Prabhupada mentions that everyone can know Lord. There is no as such prerequisite or qualification. However, the Lord can be known only by His mercy. So we have to endeavor. I often make a point when we are in the path of bhakti. If you get anything or not, please understand one thing. Behave in a way that you attract mercy, not curses. Just get this point into your head. If you don't get anything, even if you forget your name, that's okay. But don't forget this point. Behave in a way that you attract mercy of Vaishnavas. When you attract mercy of the Lord, or mercy of Vaishnava, Yasya Prasadad, Bhagavat Prasadam. This is spoken largely in relation to Guru, but Vaishnavas are also like Gurus, the Shiksha Gurus, like that. So act like that. That's the point here. We can know Lord by His mercy. Just prior to this, we were reading this verse from Nectar Devotion. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavid Grayam Indriye Naam Adi, Naam Guna Rupa Naam Lila, Atha Shri Krishna, of Lord Shri Krishna, Na Bhaved Grayam Indri. You cannot capture, you cannot understand, you cannot perceive through your Indriya senses. Sevan Mukhe Jivado Swameva Spurti Yada. But by devotional service, Sevan Mukhe Jivado Swayam Eva, certainly, Eva also means only, only by devotional service, Purati Yada, you will get that realization. And that happens why? Because of mercy of the Lord. Now, here in the purport, Prabhupada writes, what are the 4 questions? So, this is where I want you to also pay attention. If you want, you can write it down for yourself somewhere before we start the next discussion. So, first question that Brahmaji asked, what are your forms in relation to matter and transcendence? In other words, is your form different in the material world and spiritual world? That's the question here. Second question, this question will be answered in verse number 33. Second question, what are the different energies of the Lord? And the third is, how does the Lord play with energy? So what are the different energies? Spiritual energy and internal energy and external energy. And how does the Lord plays with this energy is being discussed ahead. And the fourth question is, how may Brahma be instructed to discharge his duty entrusted to him? How can Brahmaji perform his duty without becoming lazy and proud? As a Brahma had asked in his last questions, like that. Text number 32. Yavanaham yatha bhavo yadrupa gunakarmakaha tathaiva tattva vijnanam astu te mad anugraha. All of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendent existence, color, qualities, activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization. Astute mad anugraha, by my causeless mercy. All right. Like that. So because Vishnu says, Astute mad anugraha, by my causeless mercy, Prabhupada's purpose is largely about the subject matter, how mercy attracts Lord's, or how service attracts Lord's mercy. That's the point being mentioned here. Prabhupada makes a very interesting point in the purport. Prabhupada says, see, the Lord is talking about Saharasyam or Guhyam Gyan. So, whom would Lord reveal his Guhyam Gyan? Imagine Krishna standing on the battlefield. He has great personalities there. Let's choose 2 great personalities. One from Pandava side, that is Arjuna. One from Kaurava side, that is Duryodhana. Great personality, isn't it? So if Lord has to choose to whom to tell his confidential things, to whom would Krishna choose? Arjuna, obviously. Telling to Duryodhana doesn't make sense. Why? Duryodhana is envious. So here Prabhupada is making a point. Similarly, Lord reveals his confidential knowledge to his devotee, pure devotee, not to anyone and everyone. That's the point which is made. And Prabhupada gives an example. Even in the material world, the father of many sons discloses the secret of his position to the pet sons. The father discloses the confidence unto the son whom he thinks worthy. An important man in the social can be known by his mercy only. Similarly, one must be very dear to the Lord in order to know the Lord. The Lord is unlimited. No one can know him perfectly, but one's advancement, transcendent, loving service of the Lord can make one eligible to know the Lord. That's the point we mentioned here. All right. Now, let's begin with the answers to the 4 questions from text number 33. Hare Krishna. We need some volunteer to share a screen. Anyone here has Veda base? So, because otherwise, how would I might read some purport. I'll go. So if anyone has Veda base in the computer, or else you can open in your laptop and the verse, and from there, I have already enabled screen sharing. You can share the screen while we are reading the purport. So now Vishnu would begin answering Brahmaji's question. The first question being addressed here is in text number 33. Aham evashamevagre na anyat yasat asat param pashadaham yadetacha yo vashishyeta sosmiham. So the question asked by Brahmaji is, what is your form in relation to matter and transcendence? Here, Lord Shri Krishna Vishnu says, Aham means I, eva, certainly, asam, eva, only, agre. So I existed before the creation. Na anyad yat sad asat. Na anyad, beyond me, there is no cause of sad and asat. Sad means eternity, asat means temporary, sat means cause, asat means effect. So, in other words, there is no one else as a cause for the both spiritual and the material world. I am the only one who existed. Pashat aham etacha. Pashat means afterwards, which means after this material creation is destroyed, Pashadham, because see, there is no question of before and after in the spiritual world, because spiritual is ever existing. So when Krishna says Pashad, Vishnu says Pashad, which is in context of Asad. Sat ke context mein to aa nahi sakta. You're getting the point. So Pashad aham yad etacha. Pashad means afterwards. Aham, I only exist. Yo vashishyeta swasmiham. Only I remain. So before creation, I existed. During the creation, I existed. Sad asad, I am the cause of sad and asad. And pashad, after the creation, after the destruction, I existed. So how before creation Lord existed? As Vaikuntha, as the Vishnu of Vaikuntha. During the creation, he existed as Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Shirodaksha Vishnu, as Paramatma. And during the creation, he also existed as different avatars like Matsya avatar, Vara avatar, Vamana avatar, right? And after destruction, how he existed? Again, the Vishnu, Vaikuntha. Like that, Lord is saying here. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of the creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead, which means I am not affected by the creation and destruction. So my form is always eternal. It's not that I take different form. It's not that when I come to material world, I accept a form of matter. Okay, now comes a purport. निताई गौर हरि बोल, बहुत बड़ा purport है. तो इतना तो समय नहीं लगा पाएंगे, but I'll tell you what the purport talks about and I'll give you one-line answers for it. And then we'll see how it goes about. So a fantastic purport where Srila Prabhupada refutes 5 arguments. What are the 5 arguments? First argument, this is a question asked by Parashara Sukdev also, was about that Brahmaji is born from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. तो बेटे का शरीर पिताजी के शरीर के समान ही होना चाहिए ना. Now, the human gives birth to a human and is made of the same element, same thing. So does Brahma and Vishnu have the same form? Is Brahmaji also transcendental in that way, or is Vishnu material like Brahma? First. Second argument, is Lord formless? Okay, by the way, before I go into purport, just one thing our acharyas mentioned regarding the verse. If you see in the verse, there is one particular word which has been repeated thrice. Aham, aham, aham. The first line aham, the third line aham, and the last line aham. I and I and I. Somebody on the door, Prasadam. So which means here our Acharya has mentioned this verse establishes the personal form of the Lord. Because the question is about the form of the Lord. Na? What form of the Lord do you have? What form do you have in relation to matter and spirit? Krishna says, I existed. I have a form. It's a spiritual form. So the Acharya says this particular verse establishes the Lord's personal form and the spiritual form, not material form. So therefore, in the purport, Prabhupada then makes a second argument about Lord is formless. Third argument, who is Supreme Personality Godhead? And then Prabhupada also argues about those who say there is no spiritual world. Well, this verse says about, Lord existed. Lord existed, where he existed? He was hanging in the sky or what? He was living in Sad, which is spiritual world. The fourth argument, people say, Rama came, he drowned in Sarayu, disappeared. Krishna got hit by an arrow, disappeared. Does Lord also die? Prabhupada refutes. And the fifth is Vishnu or Krishna. Who is the greatest? Now let's take a look. Quick, we'll give you some reasoning for it. Brahma has manifested from Lord, so are they same? Let's read the first paragraph of the purport for that. Krishna Chandra Prabhu, you want to read? You can read. Oh, good. We're having screen sharing. Yes, please go ahead.
We should note very carefully that the personality of Godhead is addressing Lord Brahma and specifying with great emphasis himself, pointing out that it is he, the personality of Godhead, who existed before the creation. It is he only who maintains the creation, and it is he only who remains after the annihilation of the creation. Brahma is also a creation of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist puts forth the theory of oneness in the sense that Brahma, also being the supreme principle of I, because he is an emanation from that I, the absolute truth, he is identical with the Lord, the principle of I, and that there is thus nothing more than the principle of I, as explained in this verse. Accepting the argument of the impersonalist, it is to be admitted that the Lord is a greater I, and that Brahma is the created I. Therefore, there is a difference between the two I's, namely the predominator I and the predominated I. Therefore, there are still two I's, even accepting the argument of the impersonalist. But we must note carefully that these two I's are accepted in the Vedic literature, Catuh-Upanishad, in the sense of quality. The Catuh-Upanishad says, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidhati Kamam. The greater I and the created I are both accepted in the Vedas as qualitatively one, because both of them are Nityas and Chetanas. But the singular I is the greater I, and the created I's are of the plural number, because there are many I's, like Brahma, and those generated by Brahma. It is a simple truth.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what it means when it is said Brahma is one with the Lord, so Prabhupada is explaining here, yes, they're one, but in quality, but not in quantity. So not only Brahma, in fact, every living entity, you and I are also one with Lord in quality, which is Satchit Ananda, which the impersonalists fail to understand, and therefore they consider everyone to be, we can merge in the Lord. That's what they kind of talk about. That's the first point here. Second is, Lord is formless. So that is being discussed in the next paragraph. Krishna Chandra, please read from the next paragraph. In another feature of this verse. Unmute.
In another feature of this verse, no one can deny the personalities of both the Lord and Brahma. Therefore, in the ultimate issue, both the predominator and the predominated are persons. This conclusion refutes the conclusion of the impersonalists that in the ultimate issue, everything is impersonal. This impersonal feature, stressed by the less intelligent impersonalist school, is refuted by pointing out that the predominator I is the absolute truth, and that he is a person.
All right. Yeah. So here, Prabhupada in the purport, few lines below, makes a point. He says, how foolish are these people? I mean, Brahma is having a form. He's speaking to Vishnu. He saw the Vishnu. Earlier he heard Akashvani, but now he's seeing a Vishnu, and Vishnu's form is described. And on top of it, Prabhupada says, the form of the Lord as seen by Brahma existed before the creation of Brahma, and the material manifestation with all the ingredients and agents of material creation are also energetic expansions of the Lord. And after the exhibition of the Lord's energy comes to close, it remains the same personality of Godhead. Therefore, the form of the Lord exists in all circumstances of creation, maintenance, and destruction. So Brahmaji was speaking, and it was speaking to Vishnu. Creation has not happened. Creation is about to happen. So the Lord existed like that. Text number 3, who is Supreme Personality Godhead? And does the Vaikuntha exist? Prabhupada says, well, the spiritual world exists has already been described in this chapter. Lord gave the Brahmaja the vision of spiritual world, and that spiritual world is described as eternal, something which is never annihilated. Now, if who is Supreme Personality Godhead? For that reason, Prabhupada quotes various references, or our acharyas quote various references to explain who is the Supreme Personality Godhead. Now, the fourth argument here is the Lord also dies. If you go ahead in the purport, comes the fourth. Now, what Lord also dies, what it means, again, is an interesting way of understanding it, or the way our acharyas explain, is a simple example. Just like the sun never dies, but for an ignorant man, the sun dies in the night when the sun sets, right? Ah, no more sunlight. Sun ko kya hua? Now, because we have an experience, the object is animate as long as it's living, but when he dies, become inanimate. So there is an appearance and disappearance. Similarly, sunrise in the morning, which means sun has taken birth, and sun sets in the evening, sun dies. But the sun has not died. Sun has just become invisible to our eyes. It's our limited sense perception. We cannot see the sun, but the sun is still in the sky, is originating or is giving light to somebody else. Similarly, Lord appears and disappears from our eyes. Not that the Lord takes birth or Lord dies. Similarly, the Lord's birth is not a birth. The Lord's appearance almost something like the rise or rising of the sun. He appears, performs his leelas, and then he disappears. That's the another argument. The fifth, Vishnu is Krishna, who is the greatest, that is described in the last part of the discussion. I'll just make one point to understand, is Vishnu the source of Krishna? Krishna is the source of Vishnu. A very easy, simple reference in the Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, when Arjuna begged the universal form of the Lord, my dear Lord, no, enough. The horror movie, please conclude it. I want you to see in your two-handed form. However, before I see that, can you please show me your four-handed form? So in the spiritual form, when it's wounded up as pastimes, not wounded pastime, when concluded the presentation to Arjuna, then Lord Shri Krishna showed his four-handed form. And then finally showed his two-handed form. And then Krishna says, Arjuna, four-handed form is very rare, and more rare than four-handed form of mine is the two-handed form. And Prabhupada makes a very simple argument there. See, if Vishnu is the source of Krishna, then it is Vishnu who can manifest Krishna. Not Krishna can manifest Vishnu. Yes or no? Who is the source? If Vishnu is the source, then he can manifest Krishna. But he cannot manifest. If Krishna is not the source, then Krishna cannot manifest Vishnu. Krishna, being the source, was able to manifest the form of Vishnu, can manifest the form of universal form and is two-handed form. So that's just a very simple reasoning how we can understand. Let's go to the second question now. What is the second question? What are your energies, my dear Lord? Text number 34, Krishna speaks about. Rathe artham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano mayam yatavaso yatha tamaha. Those devotees who would like to read, please keep your hands up. I'll call upon the name. And in the meantime, I'll explain what it means. Rathe artham yat pratiyeta. Artha means meaning. Pratiyeta appears. Please keep the shloka when we are discussing shloka. Rather artham yat pratiyeta. So whatever is of artha, go on the Sanskrit, please. Yeah. Rathe artham yat pratiyeta. Arth of value. Pratiyeta, whatever appears of value. Na pratiyeta chatmani. Chatmani means myself. If it is not in relation to me, then it has no factual existence. Tad vidyad atmanomayam. You should know vidyad atmanomayam. This is happening because of my Maya Shakti. Yatabaso yatatama. Just like one sees his reflection in the darkness. Can you see the reflection in the darkness? Can you see reflection in darkness? Reflection is only there in the light. Just like reflection exists in the darkness, similarly, the objects are disconnected from me. So those who say, there is no God, there is no relation of God with our life, they are under Tadvidyad Atmanomayam. They are under the influence of Maya. Now, which Maya? So now Prabhupada will explain about which Maya. There are two Mayas, Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. And then in the next shloka, there'll be discussion about how does the Lord plays with these two energies of his, Yogamaya, Mahamaya, like that. So, so Mahamaya is illusory energy, and Yogamaya is the real energy. And so very interesting purport. Let's read the purport. Actually, it's a very important purport. So we'll read largely the whole purport. Okay, so who would like to read here? Who all do we have here? Okay, read out loud and clear. Okay, Mother Poonam, go ahead. Read it. I hope it'll be loud and clear.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Fantastic. Go ahead.
Translation: O Brahma, whatever appears to be any of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. No, it is my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Purport: in the previous verse, it has already been concluded that it is in any stage of the cosmic manifestation, its appearance, its sustenance, its growth, and its interactions of different energies is deterioration and its disappearance all has its basic relation with the existence of the personality of Godhead, and such whenever and as such, whenever there is a forgetfulness of this prime relation with the Lord, and whenever things are accepted as real without being related to the Lord, that conception is called a product of illusory energy of Lord. Because nothing can exist without the Lord, it should be known that the illusory energy is also an energy of the Lord. The right conclusion of the doubting anything in relationship with the Lord is called Yogamaya, or the energy of union. And the wrong conception of detaching a thing from its relationship with the Lord is called the Lord's Daivi Maya or Mahamaya. Both the Mayas also have connection with the Lord because nothing can exist without being related to Him. As such, the wrong conception of detaching relationship with the Lord is not false but illusory. Misconceiving one thing for another thing is called illusion. For example, accepting a rope as a snake is illusion, but the rope is not false. The rope as it exists in the front of the illusion person is not at all false, but the acceptance is illusory. Therefore, the wrong conception of accepting the material manifestation as being discovered from the energy of the Lord is illusion, but it is not false.
Hare Krishna. So what Prabhupada is mentioning? Yogamaya, Mahamaya. Yogamaya is just like, to make it very simple, Yogamaya is like, you're driving a car on a rainy day, on a cloudy day, and Yogamaya is you're driving a car in a nice sunny day and you can see very clearly. I was under Mahamaya for a while. I'm always in Mahamaya, no doubt about it. I got disconnected for a second. And Mahamaya means you're driving a car in a rainy day, cloudy day, and now your vision is hazy. You cannot see what is up in front. So you don't know which signboard, where to turn and all that. All you have that experience when you're driving and suddenly you don't know where to go because it's so heavily raining. That is what Mahamaya. So Mahamaya covers the reality, whereas Yogamaya puts in connection with the reality. So this concept of false, which is put forward by Mayavadis, it's itself false. So whole Mayavadi conception is falsehood. So Mayavadi says, this world does not exist. It's something like a person who's driving a car and rainy day to says, the road does not exist. Abhi, road exists. You cannot see. Tell that. That's the point here. So Prabhupada is saying it's not false, it's illusory. How can you say this is false? Right, this is real. How can you say this world is not existing? So that's the point being described here. All right. So features of Yogamaya. Yogamaya is like a light, and Mahamaya is like darkness. When you're light, you can see everything, and when you're darkness, you cannot see anything. What it leads to? It only leads to illusion and speculation. So Yogamaya is like light. When there is light, what are the features of light? There is clarity of vision, and second, there is no fear, right? So when a person is under Yogamaya, he's not fearful of anything. But when he is in the Mahamaya, which means darkness, what happens darkness? Speculation, illusion. You consider rope to be snake, snake to be rope, correct? And the second very interesting thing that happens is fear. How many of you are afraid of dark? When it becomes completely dark, or used to be afraid of dark, isn't it? Like that. So now with that, if you see, no wonder those who are under the influence of Mahamaya are the one talks about fear. This whole fear psychosis which you see in the society today, fear of India-Pakistan war, fear of Muslims, fear of Hindus, fear of radicalism, fear of religion, fear of terrorism, fear of this, fear of sadhus, fear of Modi, you know, everything which is going on, this is all because of the influence of Mahamaya. So we have a choice to get affected or not get affected. Now, the more we associate with these kind of things, we are covered by Mahamaya's influence. The more we associate with sadhus, we get covered over by Yogamaya's influence. So, which means to that degree we become fearless. Is that simple? Making sense? That's the point here. Unnecessary. Sometimes devotees are also frightened. Ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega. Nothing gonna happen. The world will end. So many. The news is all about destruction. Fine. Then, okay, now Prabhupada talks about that two types of illusion. So we'll have to go ahead in the purport. It's probably the fourth paragraph or the fifth paragraph. Persons with poor fund of knowledge become illusion. Therefore, the so-called scientists, physiologists, empiric philosophers become dazzled by the glaring reflection of the sun, moon, electricity, and deny the existence of Supreme Lord, putting forward theories and different speculation about the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of everything material. Madhapunam, go ahead and read it. Where were you? Yeah, the medical practitioner.
The medical practitioner may deny the existence of the soul in the psychological bodily construction of the individual person, but he cannot give life to dead body. Even though all the mechanisms of the body exist even after death, the psychologist makes a serious study of the psychological conditions
physiological
of the brain.
Conditions.
Sorry, physiological conditions of the brain, as if the construction of the cerebral lump were the medicine of the functioning mind, but in the dead body, the physiologist cannot bring back the function of the mind. These scientific studies of the cosmic manifestation or the bodily construction independent of Supreme Lord are different reflective intellectual gymnastics only. But at the end, they are all illusion and nothing more. All such
right.
advanced.
Yeah. So what it means, a very profound point Prabhupada is making here. So all this advancement that we have made is nothing but illusion. Think about it. If we do things in relation to Lord, only then it becomes auspicious, right? So how can the things produced by the atheistic class of society and the scientists can ever do anything auspicious? It is devotees who are making it auspicious, but what they have created is not auspicious. For example, take a case of any scientific advancement. You may say the speaker, the sound system. Hitler used the same sound speaker to propagate and cause destruction. Now let's say about the transport advancement. You have vehicles, you have planes. What it has created: inauspiciousness, air pollution, water pollution. You take a look of any advancement, mobile technology. It seems so. Those who find, now this is something to pay attention. Those who find all these objects of destruction, which are highly inauspicious, to be product of advancement, are themselves covered over by illusion, are themselves under illusion. There is no advancement. This is all destruction. This is all destructive energy. If you see, he's just taking it away. I mean, what is real advancement should be to take a student, take him to the field and show him how to grow a crop. When you understand how many months it takes for a one single grain of rice to appear, next time onward, he will not waste a single piece of grain or the rice. He'll understand how the sunlight and the water together combines together, does the whole photosynthesis and led for the plant to produce some grains or the fruits for that reason. Where does the sunlight comes from? The sunlight comes from Lord. And you can see a real connection. So that's the point Prabhupada makes. And now Prabhupada says the illusory energy is of two types. One that covers, one which throws you into illusion. Very interesting. So the point I was making once again, reiterate, those who consider all the material advancement by the atheistic class of society, which is done in, in divorce with the Lord, can only bring inauspiciousness, and that is evident today. As you see, the water is polluted, air is polluted, health is polluted, everything is polluted. And foremost of all, mind is polluted. More and more mind is polluted today because the crimes are increasing, not reducing. Those who consider these all, despite their prevalent, widespread understanding and clarity in case studies of how much destruction all these things have brought, yet people call it to be advancement. They themselves are covered over by illusion. So what illusion? Let's see. The illusory energy has two phases of existence, namely the covering influence and throwing influence. Mother Poonam, go ahead, read out. What is the throwing influence?
The illusory energy has two phases of existence, namely the covering influence and the throwing influence. By the throwing influence, the illusory energy throws the living entities into darkness of ignorance. But by the covering influence, she covers the eyes of men with a poor fund of knowledge about the existence of Supreme Person, who enlightened.
So covering influence means that leads you to speculate. And throwing influences, you become blind. You cannot see it. So cover means you can speculate, but throwing is completely opaque. You cannot see the truth. That is the point here. Then a few lines below, Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, the demonic persons who deny the existence of the Lord are thrown more and more into the darkness. That is throwing influence. And thus such demonic persons transmigrate life after life. That is the point being mentioned here. Then few paragraphs below, you will see, then comes Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. Go down after that, although the reflective energy. ठीक है. Go down, all the reflected energy, correct. Let's, Mother Priyanka, now you read it out. Is a big purport. All the reflected energy of the Lord. Go ahead. Unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Although the reflectory energy of the Lord displays various illusions to the eye of persons with a poor fund of knowledge, a sane person knows clearly that the Lord can act even from far beyond our vision by his different energies, just as fire can diffuse heat and light from a distant place. In the medical science of the ancient sages, known as the Ayurveda, there is definite acceptance of the Lord's supremacy in the following words.
We can go to the English. Go below.
There is one supreme person who is the progenitor of this cosmic manifestation, and whose energy act as Prakriti and the material nature, dazzling like a reflection. By such illusionary action of Prakriti, even dead matter is caused to move by the cooperation of living energy of the Lord, and the material world appears like a dramatic performance of the ignorant eyes. The ignorant person, therefore, may even be a scientist or physiologist in the drama of Prakriti, while the sane person knows Prakriti as the illusionary energy of the Lord. By such a conclusion, as confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita, it is clear that the living entities are also a display of the Lord's superior energy, para Prakriti, just as the material energy is a display of the Lord's inferior energy, apara Prakriti. The superior energy of the Lord cannot be as good as the Lord, although there is very little difference between the energy and the professor of the energy, or the fire and the heat. Fire is possessed of heat, but heat is not fire. The simple thing is not understood by the man with a poor fund of knowledge, but who falsely claims that the fire and heat are the same. This energy of fire, namely heat, is explained here as a reflection and not directly fire. Therefore, the living energy represented by the living entities is the reflection of the Lord and never the Lord himself. Being the reflection of the Lord, the existence of the living entity is dependent on the Supreme Lord, who is the original light. This material energy may be compared to darkness, as actually it is darkness. and the activity of the living entities in the darkness are reflections of the original light. The Lord may be understood by the context of this verse. Non-dependence of both the energies of the Lord is explained as Maya or illusion. No one can make a solution of the darkness of ignorance simply by the reflection of light. Similarly, no one can come out of material existence simply by the reflected light of the common man. One has to receive the light from the original light itself. The reflection of sunlight in the darkness is unable to drive out the darkness, but the sunlight outside the reflection can drive out the darkness completely. In darkness, no one can see the
All
things.
right. So darkness and so two things we are discuss here. One is the fire and heat. Heat is the energy of the fire. Similarly, the Lord is compared to fire, where living entity is compared to heat. Why? Because Lord has already established superior energy and inferior energy. So Jivatma is energy, which means heat is the energy of fire. That's the relation. Now heat cannot become fire. Fire is fire. Second point is discussion about darkness and light. So those who are under the influence of darkness, the material energy may be compared to darkness. That's what Prabhupada says. And the activities of the living entities in the darkness is also, illusory. What can he actually do if there is complete darkness? So then Prabhupada says, no one can make a solution of the darkness of ignorance simply by the reflection of light, which means you cannot just understand by your speculation. To come out of the darkness of ignorance, one needs a true source of light, and that true source of light should come from the original light itself, which means parampara. If you see, all the parampara starts from Krishna. Brahma Madhava Parampara, Rudra Parampara, Shri Parampara, and Kumar Parampara. This has all started from these great personalities who were personally taught by the Lord. That's the point is mentioned here. Now, second thing, fear and all that, we have discussed that. According to Padma Puran, within the metal compass, innumerable universes, and all of them are full of darkness. Any living being beginning from Brahmas to the significant end are all born in darkness, and they require factual light from the Lord to see Him directly. Again, this simple but very, very important points. When you read for yourself, it will highlight to you more. So, point is, in this world, this is a world of darkness. What is the evidence of it? Because we need sunlight and moonlight, right? Have you imagined a day when there has been no moonlight? How it becomes completely dark? Imagine you're standing on a road and there's no electricity. It's completely dark, pitch dark. So pitch dark, you can't even see your hand. That's the point here. So this place is place of full of darkness, and we need a light. Therefore, it is said, Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. We all are born into darkness. And by the mercy of the torchlight of knowledge of spiritual master, he has opened his darkened eyes by which we can see. That is the discussion here. So what are the energies of the Lord? There are two energies of the Lord, Mahamaya, Yukmaya. Yukmaya is what? Which allows you to see the truth as it is. And Mahamaya bewilders you. It hides the truth and makes speculation as to be truth. Text number 35. What are the activities of the Lord in relation to these energy? Yadamanti bhutani bhuteshu avashasheshvanu pravashtani varashtani tateshu nateshvam. Oh Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. So a very, very interesting verse. This verse, our Acharya has explained, this is the vision of a pure devotee, where he can see Krishna within everything and without everything. Pravishtani tata teshu na teshuham. I exist within everything created, and at the same time I'm outside of everything. So devotee understand, the Lord is all pervading, yet everything is not Lord. So we have a deity made up of stone. So that is Lord, but not that every stone on the ground is Lord. You getting it? Only a devotee can understand that. That's the point. So that's a prema bhakti. That's the vision which has been described here. So Prabhupada in the purpose talks about three mysteries. First mystery is of the form of the Lord. Second mystery is of the desire of the pure devotee. And third mystery is about the sound incarnation. So let's go to the purport. And if you go to the first, second, third paragraph, there the mystery is being talked about. What is the mystery of the personal form? That it is not accessible. Therefore, great transcendentalists, they end up assuming the Lord does not have a form. And then Prabhupada says, no, Lord has a form. And there's a way to see it. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadeva hidayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundanamachanta guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Like that. And Prabhupada makes a very important point. The vision of the devotees is not an ordinary vision. It is purified by the process of devotion service. I'm reading from the purport. And in the words, as the universal elements are both within and without. Similarly, Lord's name, form, quality, past tense, and tradition that are described in the revealed scriptures or as performed in the Vaikuntha Lokas are factually being televised in the heart of the devotee. Which means just like we're sitting at one place, let's say FIFA World Cup happening in Qatar, people all over the world were able to witness what was happening in Qatar, the World Cup, or for example, any cricket match or anything that is live broadcasted. So we have a technology when we poor conditioned living entities can devise a technology that can give us access of an event that is happening far on this planet, far away on this planet. Can't the Lord provide a technology where a devotee, while sitting in this planet, access the live telecast of Lord's activity in the spiritual world? Is possible? It's quite possible. Why can't this possible? That's the point Prabhupada mentioned. The Lord's form, name, past name, everything which are being performed in the Vaikuntha Lokas, far beyond the material cosmic manifestation, are factually being televised in the heart of a devotee. That is the connection of the devotee of the Lord. He is tuned to the frequency of the Lord, wherein within his heart he can access the whole reality of the spiritual world. We have example of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami, he was meditating on the Lord and he was actually witnessing the live telecast of a beautiful pastime that was happening in Goloka Vrindavan, where he saw the gopis and sakhis of Srimati Radharani were preparing her hairs. And suddenly Krishna came from behind and Krishna was looking at that. And the gopis, all of them became shy and they began to laugh. And Radharani knew what's happening. And then they gave the mirror to Srimati Radharani to look at her hairs. When she lifted the mirror and when she saw Krishna behind and she became extremely shy. Seeing this, Rupa Goswami began to laugh. That's a very famous pastime. And at that point of time, when old Brahman had come who was limping and he sat down there, and when Rupa Goswami began to laugh, so he thought, this Brahmana thought that this Rupa Goswami is laughing at my physical condition. That time we hear about this particular incident. That's the point I'm mentioning. Similarly, Baldev Vidyabhushan, by the blessings of Govind Dev Ji, he wrote to Govinda Bhasya at Galta Ji, which comes in Jaipur. And he said he called it Govinda Bhasya because Govind Ji dictated. So Govind Ji dictated means what? It dictated within the heart, dictated outside. All options are possible. What Lord cannot do it? Then the next thing the Prabhupada says, it's very difficult to understand the desires of the pure devotee of the Lord. And finally, mystery of sound incarnation. Although this is Srimad Bhagavatam, this is sound incarnation of the Lord, but this Bhagavatam would only make a difference in your life when it is heard from Parampara. This is the mystery of sound incarnation. Bhagavad Gita, although these are the words of Lord Shri Krishna, but if those words of Bhagavad Gita are heard by impersonalists, heard from the mouth of an impersonalist or an atheist, he might be quoting shlokas, reciting shlokas, you will not be able to connect to that sound incarnation. So the mystery of sound incarnation is, it makes a difference in our life only when we have heard it in disciplic succession. Like Lord Vishnu told Brahma, Brahma told Nada, Nada told Vyasa, Vyasa told Sukadeva Goswami. Now let's come to the 36th and the last verse, Catuh-sloki Bhagavatam, wherein Brahmaji says, my dear Lord, kindly protect me. Allow me to perform my duty properly without getting proud and becoming lazy. Text number 36. Etavadeva jigyasam tattva jigyasunatmanah anvaya vaitarayakabhyam yasya sarvatra sarvada. Etavad, let's read the translation. A person who is searching after the absolute truth must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, both directly and indirectly. So here, this verse Acharya explained is about abhideya, which means practice of bhakti marg, to search out the absolute truth. And the goal of that is Prayojana, where we are able to see Krishna everywhere, which was described in verse number 35. So verse number 33, 34 describes Sambandha Gyan. Verse number 36 describes the goal, that is Prema Bhakti. Verse number 35, that is Prayojana. And text number 36 describes the practice by which we can attain that goal, that is devotional service. That's been mentioned. So how does this devotional service begins? Prabhupada writes in the purport, devotional service begins with approaching a bona fide spiritual master and making a right inquiry. What kind of inquiry? Inquiry about absolute truth. Not about, oh, mere bache ki shaadi kab hogi, mujhe visa kab milega, etc., etc. Not like that. So that's a larger part of the purpose. And then Prabhupada raises certain arguments and defeats them. Like some may say, why do we need to accept Guru? Can I not read and understand by ourselves? That is a point which mentioned here, like that. So it's a very small purport. You all can read it comfortably in a span of 1 week. I'll go ahead. There are 12 subject matters that Srila Prabhupada touches in this purport. Maybe I can just quickly tell you what are those, so you understand. First is approach bona fide spiritual master, approach Guru. That's a point. No, very first point is inquiry. Make an inquiry. Inquiry about what? Absolute truth. Then, to whom to make inquiry? Approach Guru. Fourth, final instruction of Krishna is the Lord is situated in the heart of every living entity and one should engage in devotional service. Fifth, align with the Lord to make one's life success. Then the sixth point here is the fools are those who are educated atheists and do not surrender to the Lord. Seventh point, all efforts are futile. Parabhavastavad abodhajato yavan najigyasatatma tattvam yavat kriyastavat idam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. If you don't, through your work, do not get to serve the Lord or remember the Lord, all your endeavors are fruitless. And the eighth, karmatmakam buddhi and its result. Result is bondage. Karmatmakam buddhi, fruitive activities. The ninth, conclusion of all scriptures is Krishna, to surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada Ji Koshila Jiva Goswami. The 10th subject matter is, without devotional service, everything in this world is just simply a waste of time. 11th, lowest can be elevated to the highest platform by the mercy of devotional service. And then the 12th, the universal nature of bhakti, which means anyone can perform. Process is very simple, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, and by dedicating the results of one's work, one can very easily serve the Lord, please the Lord, and attain His mercy. Like that, this was. And finally, the 13th subject matter is the glories of chanting Hare Krishna. Etan nirvidyamanana michatam akaro vayam yogina narpanirnetam Hare namanuketanam. Like that, Srila Prabhupada quotes. Hare Krishna. उम्मीद करते हैं कुछ समझ आ रहा होगा. Text number 37, because I want to complete this chapter today. It's been long already. Oh Brahma, just follow this conclusion. By fixed concentration of mind, and no pride will disturb you, neither in the partial nor in the final devastation. So mere practice is not sufficient. Rather, bhakti must be practiced with sincerity, eagerness, and concentration. Just like chanting of 16 Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not that important unless it is not chanted attentively. That's the point being mentioned here. So take to this bhakti yoga path with all sincerity. And then text number 38 describes, let's read the translation. Brother Mithavan, you want to read as you're sharing the screen? Please read the translation. We'll be quick with this. Text number 38.
Text 38, translation. Thank you, Prabhu. Shukadeva Goswami said to Maharaja Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, after being seen in his transcendental form, instructing Brahmaji, the leader of the living entities, disappear. Thank you, Prabhu.
And then Brahmaji started his service. Translation, 39th verse.
On the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees, Brahma, with folded hands, began to recreate the universe, full with living entities, as it was previously.
And then he followed the principles taught by the Lord. Text number 40, translation.
Thus, once upon a time, the forefather of living entities and the father of religiousness, Lord Brahma, situated himself in acts of regulative principles, desiring self-interest for the welfare of all living entities.
The last three lines of the purport. Text number 40. Last
The
two
pure
lines.
devotees of the Lord, like Brahma and persons in the chain of disciplic succession, do not do anything to instruct their subordinates without acting accordingly themselves.
All right. Then text number 41. Please read.
Narada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness, and sense control.
Very important. This is the appropriate, essential, I would say, qualities that a student should have. Well-mannered, humble, and sense-controlled. If you're not well-mannered, humble, and sense-controlled, we really cannot serve properly. And if you a little bit meditate on these three qualities in our life and how the lack of these have led to disruptions in our devotional practice, we can very easily come to an understanding how important it is to cultivate this. Then text number 42 translation.
Narada, Narada very much pleased his father and desired to know all about the energies of Vishnu, the master of all energies. For Narada was the greatest of all sages and greatest of all devotees, O king.
Next verse.
Text 43. The great sage Narada also inquired in detail from his father Brahma, the great grandfather of all the universe, after seeing him well satisfied.
The last paragraph of the purport.
One should not think of Brahmaji as a dead great-grandfather, as we've experienced on this planet. He is the oldest great-grandfather, and he is still living, and Narada is also living. The age of the inhabitants of the Brahmaloka planet is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The inhabitants of the small planet Earth can hardly calculate even the duration of one day of Brahma.
A previous paragraph, there is a point Prabhupada mentions. Go to the previous paragraph. It is clearly mentioned, no, after the verse, after Yasya Deva Parabhakti, go to the end of this paragraph, and the sixth line you see, it is clearly mentioned herewith. Please read from there.
It is clearly mentioned herewith that Narada is not only well-behaved, meek and obedient, but also self-controlled. One who is not self-controlled, specifically in sex life, can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. One must have disciplinary training in controlling speaking, anger, the tongue, the mind, the belly, and the genitals.
Hare
One who is
Krishna.
controlled. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's the point of, training, well-mannered. Text number 44 translation.
Text number 44 translation. Thereupon, the supplementary Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which was described with the personality of Godhead and which contains 10 characteristics, was told with satisfaction by the father Brahma to his son Narada.
All right. Mother Subhashri, your hand is up. Please read the purport to this shloka. Purport to text 44.
Although the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in 4 verses, it had 10 characteristics which will be explained in the next chapter. In the 4 verses, it is first said the Lord existed before the creation, and thus the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam includes the Vedanta aphorism, Janmadi Asya. Janmadi Asya is the beginning, yet the 4 verses in which it is said the Lord is the root of everything that be, beginning from the creation up to supreme abode of the Lord, naturally explain the 10 characteristics. One should not misunderstand by wrong interpretations that the Lord spoke only 4 verses and that therefore all the rest of the 17,994 verses are useless. The 10 characteristics, as will be explained in the next chapter, require so many verses just to explain them properly. Brahmaji had also advised Narada previously that he should expand the idea he had heard from Brahmaji. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed this to Srila Rupa Goswami in a nutshell, but the disciple Rupa Goswami expanded this very elaborately, and the same subject was further expanded by Jiva Goswami and even further by Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura. We are just trying to follow in the footsteps of all these authorities. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not like ordinary fiction or mundane literature. It is unlimited in strength, and however one may expand it according to one's own ability. Bhagavatam still cannot be finished by such expansion. Srimad Bhagavatam, being the sound representation of the Lord, is simultaneously explained in 4 verses and in 4 billion verses all the same. Inasmuch as the Lord is smaller than the atom and bigger than the unlimited sky, such is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam.
So this is the whole history of Srimad Bhagavatam. Originally it had 4 verses, which had 10 characteristics, which is further explained by Nadmani. That's what Brahmaji is going to tell. Nadmani spoke to Vyasadeva, text number 45 translation. In succession, O King, the great sage Nada instructed Srimad Bhagavatam into unlimitedly powerful Vyasadeva, who meditated in devotion service upon the Supreme Personality Godhead on the bank of the river Saraswati. So here, the parampara system of how this knowledge came down is being described. And then text number 46, O King, your question as to how the universe became manifested from the gigantic form of the Personality Godhead. Who is speaking to whom? This particular verse? Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, O King. As well as other questions, I shall answer in detail by explanation of the 4 verses already mentioned. Purport. Mother Kishore Rani Devi, Mother Kishori Rani, you can read the purport of the last verse. As stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Unmute.
45 verse, Prabhuji.
As you see on the screen, yes, the last verse. 46. Purport.
Yeah. As stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this great transcendental literature is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge, and therefore all questions that can be humanly possible regarding the universal affairs beginning from its creation are all answered in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The answers depend only on the qualification of the person who explains them. The 10 divisions of Srimad Bhagavatam, as explained by the great speaker Srila Shukadeva Goswami, are the limitation of all questions, and intelligent persons will derive all intellectual benefits from them by proper utilization. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. With this, we come to the conclusion of 9th chapter. And next time when we meet, we're going to take the last and the final chapter of second canto, titled as Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. In case if anyone has 1 or 2 questions, we can quickly take it, or else we conclude here for today. All right. No questions for today. Thank you very much.